What if I told you that the real Serena Williams story doesn't end on a tennis court? What if the biggest wins of her life happened after she put the racket down? Most people know her as the greatest tennis player who ever lived. 23 Grand Slam titles, 4 Olympic gold medals, 319 weeks as the #1 player in the world. But here's the question nobody really asks. What happens to a champion when the cheering stops? When the matches are over and the only thing left is life? For Serena, that's exactly when things got interesting. Talent alone wasn't enough to convince the tennis world. As Serena and Venus began climbing through the junior ranks, people questioned everything about them. Their style, their upbringing, their father, their confidence. Many couldn't imagine that two girls from Compton would one day dominate a sport that had long belonged to a very different world. And here's the fascinating part. Richard Williams wasn't in a hurry. While other young players were pushed into nonstop tournaments, he often pulled his daughters back. Critics called it a mistake. They said the girls would fall behind. But Richard believed something bigger was at stake than winning junior trophies. He wanted champions who would last, not child prodigies who would burn out. Think about that for a moment. In a world obsessed with immediate success, the Williams family was playing a completely different game. While everyone else focused on the next match, they were planning for the next decade. And as history would prove, that patience became one of the greatest advantages Serena ever had. Serena won her first Grand Slam in 1999 at the U.S. Open. She was just 17 years old. That single win earned her $750,000. For a teenager, that felt like the whole world. But really, it was just the first sentence of a much, much longer story. Over the next 2 decades, she would go on to collect more prize money than any woman in the history of tennis. Nearly $95 million in career earnings just from competing. Think about that for a second. That's a record that still stands today, and honestly, it might stand for a very long time. But here's where most people get the story wrong. They think prize money is what made Serena rich. It isn't. Not even close. So where did the real wealth come from? This is the part that turns Serena from just an athlete into something much bigger. A brand, a business, a force. Nike believed in her early, and that partnership alone brought in tens of millions over the years. Gatorade, Wilson, and later, names like Gucci and Beats joined the list. At her peak, Serena was pulling in around $40 million a year, combining prize money and endorsements. That's not a tennis player's income. That's the income of a global icon. But money was never the whole story either. Along the way, Serena faced setbacks that would have ended most careers. Injuries, a terrifying health scare after giving birth to her daughter, one that nearly cost her life. Doubters who said she was finished, washed up, too old to compete at the top anymore. And every single time, she came back stronger. Isn't that the real definition of greatness? Not never falling, but refusing to stay down. Serena didn't just want to be the face of other people's brands either. She wanted to build her own. In 2014, she started something that would quietly become one of her smartest moves ever. Serena Ventures. A venture capital firm, focused on backing companies led by women and people of color. While most retired athletes were busy doing TV commentary or signing autographs, Serena was sitting in boardrooms, reading pitch decks, and picking winners before the rest of the world even noticed them. And here's the part that should make you pause. Some of those early bets she made, they turned into massive successes. Companies most people had never even heard of in industries far away from sports ended up multiplying in value. The kind of returns that don't just add a little to your bank account. They multiply it again and again. Doesn't that change how you see her? She wasn't just playing tennis all those years. She was studying the game of money, quietly, in the background, while everyone was watching her serve. In 2022, Serena made the decision that shocked fans everywhere. She stepped away from professional tennis. Some called it retirement. She called it evolution. And honestly, that word fits so much better. Because here's the question that really matters. What do you do when you've already conquered the one thing you spent your whole life mastering? For most people, that would be the end of the climb. For Serena, it was just a new mountain. She launched 926 Productions, a media company telling stories that matter. She built Will Perform, a brand focused on health and wellness. She kept growing her real estate holdings, building a portfolio most people couldn't even imagine, with properties spread across different states and even outside the country. She showed up on red carpets, in movies and music videos, constantly expanding what her name could represent. She wasn't fading away from the spotlight. She was redefining what the spotlight even meant. She even stepped into fashion, launching her own clothing line designed for women who wanted both comfort and power in what they wore. Think about that. A woman once known purely for her backhand was now shaping how people dress, how people invest, and how people think about wellness. That's not a side hustle. That's a complete reinvention. And the numbers tell the story better than words ever could. Today, Serena Williams' net worth is estimated at around $350 million. Let that sink in for a moment. Her tennis career earned her under $100 million in prize money over more than 2 decades of competing. But her business decisions, made in just a few short years, have added hundreds of millions more. So what's the real lesson here? What's the blueprint hiding inside this story? It's this. Don't let your skill define your ceiling. Serena's gift was tennis, but her wealth came from something else entirely. Vision, the willingness to learn a brand new game at the highest level even after already mastering one. Most champions retire and slowly fade from headlines. Serena went the opposite direction. She became more powerful, more influential, and more financially unstoppable after retirement than during her playing days. That's not luck. That's strategy. That's patience. That's having the courage to build something new, when you could have just rested on what you already achieved. And maybe the most powerful part of all this, she's doing it while raising her daughters, watching them grow up in a world she's actively reshaping. What kind of example does that set? A mother who shows her kids that winning isn't a single moment, it's a lifetime of choices, made over and over, long after anyone is watching. So here's a question we're sitting with. If the greatest tennis player of all time had to learn an entirely new skill to build lasting wealth, what does that say about the rest of us? Maybe the real comeback isn't about returning to what made you famous. Maybe it's about becoming someone new, someone bigger, once the world stops watching. Serena Williams didn't just win matches. She won the bigger game, the one that keeps paying out long after the final point is scored. And maybe that's the real blueprint, not just for athletes. For anyone watching this right now, wondering what their own next chapter could look like. But Serena's story still isn't over. In 2026, after nearly 4 years away from professional tennis, Serena Williams is making a sensational comeback at the age of 44. Awarded a highly anticipated Wimbledon singles wildcard, she's also reuniting with her sister Venus Williams in the women's doubles event. After building a business empire and redefining life beyond tennis, Serena is proving once again that true champions never stop chasing greatness. If this story inspired you even a little, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, it really helps this channel grow. And if you want more stories like this, true stories about wealth, success, and the people who built empires from nothing, go ahead and subscribe to our channel so you never miss the next one. Because trust me, the next story might just be the one that changes how you think. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.